Welcome everybody to today's live webinar. We are covering Intro to Microsoft Word Part 3. It's the third and final part of our Microsoft Word series. But, think about things you might want to do for a future class. If you have any ideas, let us know because we always are interested in taking feedback for future classes. My name is Rebecca Van Dusen. I am a library associate at the Champaign Public Library. If you've attended any tech workshops, you've probably seen me. I host often for Susan while she teaches, and I occasionally teach a class as well. I'm teaching some coming up in January too, so you'll see me. I also work at the information desk, so I answer the phones. You might hear my voice over the phone or see my smiling face if you come into the library when we're open. Before I introduce Susan Winkler, our technology librarian, I'd like to mention we are closed to the public, but we are still here in the building. So we're still doing reference questions by phone or email, or you can even chat with us on our website. If you go to our website, champaign.org, there's a little chat box in the window there. You can also email us, librarian@champaign.org, if you have questions. And we still are continuing to offer our curbside services. So if you want to pick up your holds, you can set up a curbside appointment. And we are still offering our Book a Librarian service virtually. So if you need help at home, one-on-one, feel free to visit our website and fill out a form. So the website is champaign.org/book-a-librarian, and I'll type that in the chat too. And once you visit that website, you'll fill out the form, fill out what you are hoping to learn, and then a staff member will get in touch and figure out a time that works for you and answer your question. And let's also go over some Zoom features. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see there's a little bubble that looks like a chat bubble. If you click on that, that's going to let you type in questions to us. So while Susan's doing the demo and teaching the class, I'm behind the scenes here answering the questions that you ask. So that's me, I'm responding back. And I'll also pose questions to Susan along the way. So if it's a question I feel like is really worth the whole class learning, I'll pose it to Susan, and oftentimes we'll redo a demo or cover something more in depth. So feel free to ask questions. That's definitely something we are interested in getting from you. And you'll also see a little raise hand button. That's also going to help you ask questions. So if you would rather speak your question, you can click that raise hand button, and then we'll unmute your microphone so that you can speak rather than typing out a whole long question. Basically, in a nutshell, we want you to ask questions. If you have them, feel free to interrupt us. I think I've covered everything. Again, if you have any technical questions, feel free to ask that as well. I'm behind the scenes working on those too. So let's welcome our technology librarian, Susan Winkler. Hi, Susan.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Rebecca. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Yeah, I'm ready to dive into Word 3 here.
Another lively word session.
Yes, and I hope that everyone with us is also interested in diving into Word 3 here. I will go ahead and jump right in, but if you have questions, like Rebecca said, feel free to stop us. Feel free to post them in the chat or raise your hand and ask to be unmuted so that you can ask your question out loud. Just like what we would do in our normal in-person sessions, where, if you had a question, you just go ahead and ask it or raise your hand. We want that to be the same sort of experience that you have here today. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm actually going to share my whole screen. So for a second, it's going to look really fun because you're going to have like a bunch of different pieces of the same screen. But then we'll get into Word here. I am going to go ahead and come back up here and start our slideshow. Okay, so if you were here at the very beginning before we started recording, so this is our promotion slides that we have. If you've ever been in the building and you've seen our TV downstairs, this is what our promotion slides usually look like. And there's my contact information down there as well. And Rebecca will put her contact information and mine in the chat for you as well. But welcome today to Intro to Microsoft Word Part 3. Now, if you didn't attend 1 and 2, that's okay. The first little bit here is a quick review, at least about how to start a document and save a document. And then we'll jump into something that we've got saved from last time that we're going to jump into and work with this time. So the first thing we're going to cover is the ways that you can open Microsoft Word. Our version that we have today is 2016, the desktop version. There are some other versions of Microsoft Word out there. You might have Word Online, or with Office 365, there's also an online version of Word. We're going to just use the regular desktop version today. But if you have the others, again, there are some minor differences between them too. We're going to talk about how to select your document type, whether you want to work from a blank document or a template. We will talk quickly about how to save documents and save as. Then we're going to get into the more official stuff that we're covering today, which is we're going to spend a lot of time with the Insert tab. And we're going to insert and format page numbers. We're going to insert a header. We're going to insert a footer. We're going to play with inserting, resizing, moving, and cropping pictures, which will be fun. We're going to insert, resize, move, and format text boxes, which will also be really fun. I especially like this because it gives you a chance to be a little bit more creative. And we'll insert, resize, move, and format shapes. And then we're going to learn how to undo everything we did and delete the pictures and text boxes and shapes and take them out. And then we'll insert and delete symbols and special characters. We did a little bit of that during the first part 1 because we had a question about it. But this is the day we're actually going to cover it a little bit more in depth for everyone. Okay. All right.
Also,
So,
Susan, before you
yes.
start, you have that
Sure.
little box that says,
oh, yes, the sharing screen thing. Let me move that down here so it's kind of out of the way. It's also a lot bigger today because we increased the resolution on the computer. So it's a little bit bigger. Is that out of the way enough, you think, down here? I don't think I can hide it all the way.
I think that's okay there.
And still know I'm sharing it. Okay, I'm just going to put it kind of down there like that. Okay,
that
thank
looks
you.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, so jump back in here. So there's 2 ways, at least for our training laptops, there are 2 ways to get to Microsoft Word. The first is to go to, we have a folder on our desktop called Office, and we could open that and then go down to Word 2016. If you have Windows 10, the second way, some people prefer the second way, which is basically just typing into the search box down at the bottom left hand of your screen and just typing Word or Word 2016, and that'll bring up the program, and then you would just click on the program information there, and that will take you into the app. So I'm going to demo this stuff in just a moment, but I'm going to cover the document type and saving real quick too before we actually do it. So once you've opened it, so we're tapping twice on this to get to Word 2016. And then we're going to select our document type. And in this case, we've selected a blank document, which means it doesn't have any text or placeholder text or anything else in it yet. And when it opens up a blank document, it looks essentially like this. If you see where it says document 1 Word with the blue ribbon across it here, just like this. Okay. Now, if we were to do a template instead of picking blank document over here, we could pick a resume, for example, or a newsletter, or any other kind of template we wanted. And then it's going to open up a little pop-up box where then all you have to do is tap the button that says create, and then it'll create that template for you in Word. And then you can go in and erase, and write over the top of the existing text with whatever you want to put in there instead. So what we're going to use today is we're actually going to be dealing with some text that already exists. So I already have a document that's been saved that we're going to open and then add stuff to. Okay, so when you save documents, save as is recommended for the first time you're saving a document. That's because you can also at that point give it a name, and you can select where you want to put it. So just remember that save as is really great for telling it where you want it to go and giving it a specific name. Save, on the other hand, saves over the top of your existing document. So if I had a file and I opened it and it was called cat1. And I hit save. Any changes I make, those get saved to cat1. If I do save as, I have the opportunity to save a second version of my document, and I could save it as cat1 edited version. Okay, so this is a very quick explanation of save versus save as. We did cover that in the earlier session, but in case you missed it, just remember that you do want to save and save often as well as you go through making your documents. Okay, so once you've done save as, then you can pick where you want to save it, so what folder you want to put it in, and then you can give it a name and then hit save. So once you've done that, you can also additionally hit save up here. Again, this is just save, not save as. So once I've started saving a document, started typing a document up, and I make changes to it, I can just hit the little save icon over here on the left-hand side. Looks a little bit like a floppy disk, and that's the save button. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that, and feel free to ask questions as we go along here. And I'm going to go ahead and jump out of my document. I'll say save. I'm not sure what I did that I would save, but okay. So my first version of finding Word, I can, if I had the folder here, I would just open that. This is not one of the training laptops, so I don't have that. So I'm just going to do Word down here. Can anybody see that in the box here?
Yes,
this is the search box. Okay, so we're going to type Word, and then if you look up here, you've got Word 2016. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that, and then it's going to open our launch point here, and I could pick blank document or the resume or newsletter, brochure, all sorts of different things here. So if I picked blank document, that's going to open a blank document for me in Microsoft Word. So here I've just gone ahead and typed something up. If you notice up here, the title right now, oops, sorry about that. The title right now is document 1. When I go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save it to the desktop here, then I can change it and I can make it, you know, computers. I can check where I'm saving it and hit save. Now you'll see that changes. Instead of document 1, it's now computers. Okay, so that's how you would save your document. Okay, questions? I know that was pretty fast, but that was hopefully a review for most of you.
I don't see any questions so far, but I'll keep an eye.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and X out of that, and we'll move on to the next part of what I wanna cover, which is gonna be inserting page numbers and formatting page numbers. So I've already got a document that we worked on last time, which was we used the text from Wizard of Oz. So we're going to continue working with our first chapter of Wizard of Oz for the rest of this demo. And what that means is I'm first going to explain, insert, and format page numbers for you, the header and the footer, and then I'm going to demo it live again. Okay. So to insert a page number or insert page numbers, we are going to spend a lot of time on the Insert tab today. And the Insert tab controls inserting things like page numbers, headers, footers, pictures, text boxes, shapes, symbols, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to click first on the Insert tab, and then we're going to find page number inside the header and footer group here. And then we can decide where we want to place our page numbers. If we want them at the top of the page, the bottom of the page, the left side, the right side, all of that. And then we can select to format those page numbers. And that means, are we going to have it be Roman numerals or numeric, or, you know, if you have like an appendix, maybe you want the appendix to be different than the actual text of your document. So we're going to play with that. Okay, so when we go in to format the page numbers, which again, you hit page number, then come down, and after you figured out where you want to put them, the top or the bottom of the page, then you want to format your page numbers. And then you can select either if you want them to be like 1, 2, 3, or, you know, IV for, you know, 4. And then you can also start your page numbering which means you can start on the page that you're on. You can start at 1, you can start at 2, you can start at 4, and then so if you had a title page and you don't want your title page to be numbered, you can start with what is actually page 2 because you have a separate title page. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, when we insert a header, we do the same thing. We go to the Insert tab. We click on the header icon from the header and footer group. So all three of these, header, footer, and page number, are all in the same group, and that's the header footer group. So they're all going to be clumped right there together. And then you can pick for your header the type of header you want. If you want just one thing on the left-hand side, if you want 3 columns, and if you want it to be sort of branded and fancy, or some sort of theme to it. Okay. And headers are super useful for information you want to have appear on every page, like the title of your document and your name and your page numbers. Okay. So if you wanted to put, if you ever turn something in a document and it comes, it's stapled, but the staple falls out, then at least you still have the ability for everyone to know which pages are yours and which go with your document. Okay, same thing is true for a footer. You click on the Insert tab, then go to the footer icon in the header and footer group to insert the footer, and you have the same idea. You can put something in the left-hand corner, you can put 3 columns in there, and then you can pick one that has a little bit more fancy theme to it. And again, they're useful for information you want to have appear on every page, like the document title, your name, or the page numbers. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the live demonstration of those. And I'm going to use our wonderful Wizard of Oz document here. So I'm hoping that showed up for everyone. You can see wonderful Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the wonderful Wizard of Oz. It's chapter 1. It's double spaced, so we have at least 2 pages. And I know that because down here in the bottom corner, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it says page 2 of 2. And if I scroll back up, it says page 1 of 2 down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Right there, it's kind of in a different gray color at the moment. But that's how we can tell how many pages we have in the document. Okay, so let's say we're going to go ahead and insert, and let's do a header. Okay, so I've gone to the Insert tab up here, and I've come down to the header, and I'm going to go ahead and tap on header, and I'm going to go ahead and do a blank 3-column header. Okay, so once I do that, you see it's got type here, and type here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type over the top of that spot here in order to put in what I want to put in there instead. Okay, so if I wanted to put my name and then the title of my document, and then maybe I want to put the date. So let's do December 29th, 2020. Okay. Okay, so now there's my header. Now to click off of your header, you just click back into your regular document, and then you'll see your header space. It's a little bit grayed. It's like a lighter gray color up there. I'm hoping you can see that coming through. Yep, okay. And it's also appearing within that first inch of your paper. This is known as your top margin, is the space that the header will appear in. So if I was to change my margins and shrink this space a little bit, your header will stay here, but it'll be closer to the top of the page. Okay. Okay, so that's a header. Now let's go ahead and put in some page numbers. So I'm going to go back to Insert, come over to Page Number, and I'm going to say let's put it at the bottom of the page because I don't want it to supersede any of my stuff that I've already done. Okay, so I'm going to put it at the bottom of the page, and I kind of like the one where it's in the middle. So I'm going to say, let's put it in the middle here. So I'm going to click that, and now you'll see the footer has the page number in it. Okay. Okay, so now there's page number 1, and now look, our second page also still has our same header. Again, remember, it's things that you want to have repeated on every page. So that second page also has my name, the title of the document, and the date. Okay, if I go down to the bottom, here's where you can see the page number for 2. Okay, so that's inserting page numbers. And then if I wanted to format those page numbers, again, insert and go to page number, and then I come down to format page numbers. And let's say instead of having it be 1, 2, 3, I want it to be Roman numerals. So I'll pick those and I'll hit OK. And then you'll see what happens is this will change. So now it's an I, and now there's 2 IIs right there. Okay, so that's how you can format them. Okay, questions about that? Now, I do want to say, I want to bring up one thing about if you put your page numbers somewhere where you already have text, it will supersede it. So if I already have page numbers down here and I go to insert and footer, because I've already put the page numbers in the middle, I could still do a blank 3 column, but note that it's going to take that out. There's a more advanced layout process to do both. And if anyone's curious, we can send that in our follow-up email with a tutorial on how to do that. But it is a little bit more time consuming and takes more effort. So I was going to sort of just show you here how you could do these things instead without bothering to put that in there. So I could also put in, like my email address down there, whatever you want to do for the footer. Okay, so let me go ahead and insert, show you how that happens. So if I do bottom of the page and I put it there, see how that erased the email address that I had put there? So just keep that in mind. Usually what I like to do is I determine where my page number is going to go first, and then I put the page number there, either above or below, and then then the opposite is where I put all of my information. Okay, questions about that?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, so that's headers and footers. Next thing we're going to do is the one that I think is the most fun, which is inserting pictures. So I'm going to come back to our slideshow here. All right, so for inserting pictures, as long as you have them saved somewhere on your computer, it's easy to go to the Insert tab and then click on Pictures icon under the Illustrations group. Now you'll see there's also online pictures, where if you click on online pictures, it allows you to go out and find a picture on the web. Now again, in that case, copyright might become an issue, so you want to be a little careful about what you pick from the online environment. But if you already have a picture, you just go ahead and pick right from there, and then it brings up your dialog box where you can find the picture, and then insert it. Okay. When you insert it, the thing you want to make sure you do is put it where your cursor is. So wherever your cursor is at, where it's the little blinky eye appears, that is where the picture is going to orient itself first. Okay, so keep that in mind as you place your image. Now, the other thing you're going to see is if you click on the picture, once it's in there, you're going to see these white little dots here. You can see me kind of tracing the picture with them. This is known as a bounding box, meaning it's basically the image is contained within this bounding box. So these little white dots become your sizing handles, which then you can use to resize the image based on pulling them up or out. And we're going to do that in just a second as well. But once you've clicked on the image, so you've selected it and it has this bounding box around it, you're also going to see this little box pop up on the right-hand side, and this is the layout options. So if you have both text and an image, and this is where Microsoft Word, it's a text-based software. So it works really well for documents and papers and things like that that are mostly text-based. But you can add images, you can add tables, you can add all sorts of stuff to it. But this is one way that that can help you with placing your text around the image. So we're going to play with that in just a moment, and you'll see some different examples. So I'm going to follow through this real quick. Inserting pictures. Okay, actually, let's go ahead and insert it first. So if we're following along here, I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor right at the front, so if everybody can see that right in front of the D in Dorothy. And then I'm going to hit Insert, Pictures, And then I could insert the puppy because the puppy is really cute, but I actually put a couple on the desktop that were kittens. So we're going to pull our kittens here and we're going to insert our kittens. Okay. So now our kittens have inserted, and you can see here's our bounding box with our white sizing handles. And then off to the right, there's our little box with our layout options. Okay. And what it did was it pushed our text. So if you see, Dorothy is now pushed to the right of the picture. Now that might not be what you want, because then you have all this blank space over here, and maybe you really want your text to be up here so that it can start in line with your picture. That's where the layout options come in handy, and we're going to cover each one of those in just a moment. Just going to jump back here. Okay, are there any questions about inserting a picture?
Can you demonstrate one more time about how to insert a picture before the text?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll actually just go ahead and take that out. Okay, so wherever your cursor happens to be is where the image is going to insert itself. So if I put it here in front of the W and I do insert picture, pick my kitten's picture and insert it, you'll notice now it's inserted it right before the word with. Okay, so you just want to make sure that wherever your cursor is, that's where you want the image to be. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the D here in front of Dorothy. So my cursor is right in front of the D. And I'm going to come up to the Insert tab, the Illustrations group, tap on Pictures, find my picture that I want. And one thing I've done here, so you can see the thumbnails of the pictures, it's because I'm over here and I've picked large icons. So if you see just a little, like a little thing without images, so for example, this, where it looks like this with a list and it doesn't have an image, if you pick this dialog, this little icon right here, you can make it show you your images instead. Okay, so we're going to pick kittens and we're going to insert. Okay, and then it's going to insert it right before the D. Okay. Okay. Questions? Would you like to see that again? Good.
I think we're okay so far, but I'll let you
Okay.
know.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is once we've inserted it, we have the chance to do a bunch of things where we can move that text around, right? So we can use that little layout box to move our text so that it is inline, or the picture goes in between, or it wraps around. So we're just going to go through these real quick. So inline means it's going to post it right between it. Okay. Wrapping square means it's going to wrap it around the image on the one side. And this will make more sense once I do the live demo too. And then with tight wrapping, it gets a little bit closer to the edge of the picture here. Wrapping through means it's going to start here and it basically just jumps over the image to finish the sentence and paragraphs. Wrapping on the top and bottom means it's going to go above and below. Wrapping behind the text means the image will go behind the text, which in most cases is a little bit harder to see unless you have a very light colored image, which if that's the effect you're going for, then you could certainly do that. Or you can also do it where it's wrapping in front of the text. So the picture is here and then you only see a little bit of the text. Okay, so now I'm going to demo these live. So here's our image, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on what happens to this text down here. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you can see a little bit better how this works. Okay, so I'm clicking on layout options, and right now it's in line with text. We're going to go ahead and do square wrapping. And did everybody see how that, let me jump out of that for a second. Did everybody see how that popped it up so that it's to the right of the picture? Okay. Now we can do the tight, and you'll see it's moved it ever so. You might not be able to see that here. Let me zoom in again here. This is one where it's good to be zoomed in. Okay, so here we've got our text, and we're going to do the regular wrapping is here, and then the tight wrapping moves it ever so slightly closer to the edge of the image. Okay, and then we'll zoom back out here to show you through. Okay, going through. And since we've oriented it here, the through one doesn't actually look that, you can't actually see that much difference there. But with this, it would be wrapped up and bottom. And since we started it right at the beginning of the text, it's only below, not above. But if I moved the image, then you can see what it'll look like there. Okay. And then if we do, this one is behind the text, and this one is in front of the text. So here you can see Dorothy and all that started back over here where it was in the beginning, and it's behind there. Okay, so for most cases, when you do a picture and you want the text to also be able to be seen, you're probably going to use the text wrapping that's either square or tight.
We have a hand raised.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and allow them to talk.
Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to know, how did you change the size of the whole text and everything? I missed that. Where did you click to make it go smaller?
The text. So what we were doing was we were clicking on the image, and then clicking this the little square box that comes up to the right of the image is your layout options, which allows you to align the image with the text in various ways. So
no, I wanted to know, before that, when your screen, the font was little bigger, and you made it all small.
Yes, so that is actually down here in the bottom right-hand corner.
Got it.
This is your zoom function. So it's actually not making the text any bigger. So the text is still up here. You can see Calibri and 11. So that's still the same size, but it changes the view of the screen so that you can see it a little bit more closely. So if I zoom in like that, then you can see that part of the screen a little better. So what I was trying to do was get a little closer so you could see this spacing in between here and how that changes with the text wrapping.
Okay. I just missed your cursor and I didn't know where did it go.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's a great point that I just kind of used it without explaining what it was too, which it's good that you asked. I'm sure somebody else probably had the same question too. But yes, and this is very useful. This zoom down here is very useful when you're working in Word or PowerPoint or Excel, because you can easily zoom in a little better to see what you're, if you need to focus a little bit more on something specific in your document.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for asking. Great question. Okay, so now that we've covered anything else on text wrapping? For anyone?
I think we're good so far.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to resize our picture. So I'm going to say that, this is a little bit bigger than I want it. It's taking up a little bit too much of the page. And again, I could show you how much of the page it's taking up if I zoom out a little bit. So I'm like, that's kind of dominating that first paragraph. So maybe I want to make it a little smaller. So what I'm going to do is, again, click on it. So if I don't have it selected, it looks like this. Once I select it, it gets that white, those white circles, the sizing circles in the bounding box. And then to resize it, I can make it smaller or bigger by going over the white dots here, and then selecting to make it smaller would be pulling in like this. To make it bigger would be pulling out like that. Okay. And you'll see see how the text continues to wrap around it while I do this. So if I go like this and I make it a little smaller, I'm going to make it a little smaller, and then I'm going to show you how to move it in just a second, which is what I also did there. But to make it bigger or smaller, you just pull on the little sizing handles. Okay. Now you can also stretch it and change the proportions by going in and out like this. But that, of course, changes the dimensions of your image. So it's usually, if you want it to stay in the same dimensions, you want to grab from the corners. Because if I grab from here, I smoosh it. But if I grab from here, it's changing it on both sides. Okay.
I'll also say that if you hold down the Shift key and move it while holding that, you should be able to keep the same dimensions without distorting it.
Yeah, I think well, that doesn't work in Word, I don't think, because this is Shift and it's still doing
Okay, I guess
everything.
it's
I think it's in more of the graphics programs like Photoshop and PowerPoint and Publisher where you can do that. Because
Okay,
with this,
well,
it's
I learned something new. For some
I
reason, I
think,
thought it was with Word as well.
yeah, it should be. I absolutely agree with you that it should be. But I think it's just because since this one is so much more text-based, they don't bother with the proportion shortcodes. So anyway, so yeah, so I usually grab from the bottom right-hand corner when I'm trying to resize, just to make it a little easier. Okay, so that's resizing. Okay, any questions about resizing?
Someone did ask if they have to click on all the white dots when you're resizing, and I said yes.
Well, you want to make sure you click on the image, but you can pick which dot you want to click on to resize.
Right.
So if you clicked on the middle one here, it's going to stretch it this way. I wonder if maybe if I hit shift there, if it'll, nope. Okay, so you can stretch it that way, or you can stretch it up, or you can stretch it to the sides, or you can grab from the corners and stretch like this, and then it'll keep the proportions.
It's fun to play around with it too. It takes practice to do it, to get it how you want it to look. So it's not gonna, come right away sometimes. I know for me, I struggle sometimes with the images on Word. So it does take practice.
Yes, and it can get frustrating because, again, if you have text and images and you're placing them in places and then stuff can wrap when you're not expecting it to wrap. And so it can be a little difficult when you first get started with it to play with them. But okay. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is about formatting the picture. So we've resized it, and we can also format it, which means we can do things like give it a border. We could change the contrast and the brightness. And to do that, if you right click, you will, and I also want to show when I right click like that, did everyone see that as soon as I click on the image, let me click off of it. If you watch up here in the top corner where it says view, as soon as I click on the image, you see how this other tab comes up that says picture tools and format? This means we're in a separate tab now that is controlling what happens with the picture specifically. So it's the same as coming in here and right clicking, and then we're going to say, we're using all of these tools here to do things for our picture. Okay. So if I want to format the picture, which is the bottom one down here, if I click on that, it lets me do some things to the picture. So I could add a shadow. Let's add a shadow that's orange, because orange is kind of fun to see, easy to see. So you see that's a shadow, like an orange shadow there. We can blur, blur it. We can make it distance, like down below. So you see we can do all these fun things. So let's just leave that nice little orange shadow there. And then we can add picture corrections. So this is where we can do things about the brightness. So we can make it really dark or really bright. So these are some little basic editing things that you can do. You can change the contrast, all within Word, okay? Now you could also take this image into an image editing program and do much more advanced stuff with it before you import it or insert it into your document. But once it's there, if you want to do a couple little things, you could do them easily here with Format Picture. Okay, questions about that?
Not so far.
Okay, so the next thing I want to show you how to do is to crop the picture. I do this a lot when I take things in for these particular classes too, because a lot of times I want to go in real close so you can see exactly which icon I am trying to describe. So I will cut things and crop them in closer. So let's say we really only want this kitty on the left-hand side. I know they're both very cute, but for the sake of argument right now, we're going to say we only want the kitty on the left. So if that's the case, we can right click and we can say we're going to crop. And what'll happen is you have the white bounding box behind with the little circles, but you also now have the cropping tool here, which gives you these black corners and things in the middle. So this is also going to let you crop. So if I want to crop out just this kitty, I can slide it across like that. Do you see how it's a different color now? That means it's no longer part of the image. So when I let go, it's now telling me, okay, is this what you want? And this is what you want to get rid of. And then if I hit enter, it'll get rid of the other kitty. So now we just have one kitty. So that's cropping an image. You'll sometimes want to do this if there's distracting things in the background of the picture, and then you can take that stuff out. Okay. Okay. Oops. I'm going to fix my text here. So did you notice? Oh, actually, you know what? This is a teachable moment here. Let me go back a couple of steps here. So if you've noticed, when I did that, when I put the picture here, did you notice how chapter 1 and then the title, the cyclone, is now no longer in line with chapter 1 up here? That happened because of where I had placed it. So if I do this, see how it's locked? So the parts that are grayed out here with the little anchor, that's because it's now locked to the image. So I'd have to tab in like this to get it back into place, like that. Okay. Okay, so sorry, so back to cropping. So you can crop images this way. Once you've cropped it, it's gone. So bring it back. Any questions about that?
We're good.
Okay, so the other thing I want to show you is moving a picture. So if I want to move this picture, all I have to do is up here at the top, you see when, can everybody see? I know it's kind of small. Right below the white circle in the middle, my mouse, my cursor has turned into 4 arrows going either direction with the cursor in front of them. This will allow you to move your image. So you can grab your picture and move it wherever you want to in your document. And you see how right now the text is just kind of flowing on either side of it? So I could actually put it down here instead if I wanted. And then let me zoom out a little bit so you can see that a little better. So now instead of being up here next to the D in Dorothy, it's now down here at what we would call like the second paragraph. Okay, so that's how you move. You can move the image just by grabbing, selecting it, and when it's you have the four arrows, and you hold down your mouse button, your left mouse button, and you can move it wherever you need to. Okay, so that's also moving it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to text boxes. And text boxes and shapes work in the very same way that pictures do, where you get a bounding box around them and you can resize them and you can move them around on the page in exactly the same way. Okay, so are there any questions about pictures before we move on?
I don't see any so far.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on and insert a text box. So again, we're going to go back up to the Insert tab, and we're going to come down here, and we're going to look at the text group here, and we're going to hit Text Box. Okay. Once you hit Text Box, you have the option of the kind of text you want to put in and whether or not you want it to have some formatting style already or not. I'm going to say I don't need any fancy styling right now. I'm just going to go ahead and pick Simple Text Box, and it's going to drop it right into the middle. And then I can put in whatever the text is that I want. So in this case, let's say, so now I'm going to type something out. And for me, I am going to type out a quote from in here. And that is, there's if I can type, okay. Coming. So this is what Dorothy's uncle says. Okay, so now if I want to call attention to it, again, I can treat it just like regular text. I can change. So what I've done is I highlighted it, and then I'm going to change. I can change the size of the text. I can make it so it's much bigger, so it stands out. I can make it bold. I can do all of those things that I want to the text itself. But I also have this little box over here with layout options, right? So it treats it just like it would treat a photograph or another element that you've inserted, where you can do the same thing with the text wrapping around this text box. Okay, you'll also see when I tap on it, you get the three white circles, the bounding box, and you can also move it just like you could once you get the four arrows and the cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and move it a little bit further down the page, closer to where this quote actually appears. which is, there's a cyclone coming, M, which is right down here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and click on it, and it works both ways. So I can grab it from the bottom here too. See how there's still the 4 lines there? And I can move it down here. So I'm going to move it around this side like this. Okay, so we're just calling attention to this quote, and I'm going to stretch it. See how I stretched it? So again, just like you can resize the photos, you can also resize your text box quotes. Okay, so I'm going to resize this so it's all on one line, just like this, and put it right here. Okay, any questions about that?
We're good so far.
Okay, so you'll note there's also a border. There's already a little border around this text box. I can change that. I can make it different. I can do what I want with it. I'm going to call attention up here at the top again next to view. Since I've selected this text box and it has the bounding box around it, up here at the top, I'm now in drawing tools format. So I can format this text box the same way I could format the picture. So to do that, I can right click on it, and I'm right clicking on the outside of it, right where the box is. And then I can change the properties of the box itself. So not the text that's in the box, but the box itself. So I could change the outline. So if I wanted to call more attention to it, I could make the bounding, I could make the border thicker. I could make it red so it stands out a lot. I could fill it in with a different color, like maybe, let's see, one that's like maybe a light blue. Or I could pick a certain style and it'll make it that certain style. Okay, did everyone see that okay? I can repeat that if you'd like. I know that went kind of fast. But basically what I can do is I can change different properties about the text box. I could also do it without an outline, and then there's no outline. So there's no border on it. Or I can say, okay, I really want to call attention to this. So I'm going to do a, let's make it red again. So we're going to make it red, and then we're going to give it, 4.5 points. So, and we'll make it red again. Okay. Questions about that?
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, so again, just like the pictures, it works the exact same way as formatting and moving your pictures. So resizing other elements beyond the text, you always select it, you get that bounding box around it with those the white sizing handles, and you move those how you want. Okay. All right, so now we're ready to insert a shape. And it's going to be about the same way we inserted that. So now in the regular class, in the in-person class, I would ask, okay, who knows where I should go? What group and what tab and what group do we think we need to go to insert a shape? So if you want to answer in the chat, feel free. If anybody wants to take a guess. Okay.
Insert. Someone says insert.
Yes, excellent. Yep, we're going to go back to insert. And in fact, not only are we going to go back to insert, but we're also going to go to the illustrations group, because the shapes are considered illustrations, just like pictures. Okay. Now the difference with shapes is that once you've picked your shape, you're going to draw your shape, which means you're going to use your cursor to draw across the page to make it how big you want it to be at the beginning. Okay, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'm going to take the draw shape, click on shapes, and now you can see we have arrows. You've seen these a lot in the tech workshops, right? We use those red bounding boxes and red rectangles, and we use a lot of arrows. So these are all basic shapes. So we just need to pick a shape that we want to put into our document here. Anybody have a particular one they like that they think we should use? You can answer in the chat if you'd like for a specific one we should pick.
I don't see any so far.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to go for stars and banners, and we're going to pick this little star right here. So this guy, this little star here is called the point star, and we're going to grab that point star. Now, do you notice that what I have now is a cursor that looks like that just has the two lines that form an equilateral cross here? this is what I'm going to use to draw. I have to put this cursor wherever I want that shape to start. So if I wanted it to start here, then I hold down my left mouse button and I draw the shape. Okay. So let's say I draw it like that. Okay. Now here's where my shape went. So that's what we mean by you have to draw the shape on there yourself. Okay. So I'm going to show everybody that again. So I'm going to come up to Insert, Shapes, pick my stars. And of course you have a scroll bar here, so you can come down and see more of them. I'm going to pick the stars and banners here. I've got my cursor, and then I have to pick my spot, hold down my left mouse button, and draw my shape. Now keep in mind where it actually draws from here. So if I started my point, let me show you again here. Okay. So it might not actually be exactly where, it's going to be, in this case, it's going to be the very tip of the left. So see how it's the very tip of the left bit here? So this is where it started, right here at this point for when I drew it. If I draw a different shape, like say a circle, and I draw like this, it's also going to start at that very left point and then go this way. I could also insert my circle shape and start it up here and go to the left. So you don't necessarily have to go right or left. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and grab one that we'll then manipulate. So I'm going to go back to my star here and put that star right here. Okay, so now I have a star. To resize my shape, again, all I have to do, grab on any of the little sizing white dots here in the bounding box. When they turn into that arrow, the two arrows that go the opposite directions, and then I can make it smaller or I can make it bigger. Okay, smaller or bigger. I'm going to make it bigger. Okay, now it's a lot bigger. You see also I have the same thing here about the layout with layout options. So again, I could put it, make the text split top and bottom. I could put it behind text. I could put it in front of text. So let's put behind text. So that's how it looks if it's behind the text. That's how it looks if it's in front of the text. If we did text wrapping, kind of fun, huh? You're like, ooh, breaks up your sentences a little bit there. Or if we wanted to put it all the way to the text wrapping with one side. Okay, I think I like that one the best. So I'm going to leave that, but I'll make it a little smaller. And again, if I pull and stretch or pull and stretch, it's resizing it no matter what. Okay. Okay, to move it, I can move it the same way I would have moved my picture or my text box down here. As soon as it turns into the cursor with the four little arrows, I can hold down the left mouse button and I can move it back and forth. Okay, just like that. Okay, any questions about that so far?
Nope, I don't see any. Oh, actually
Perfect.
It says, please show how to lighten it up.
Oh yeah, so with the drawing tools, you can still do some things, like change the color of it, and we're just about to get to that too. So we can do right click and say format shape, and we're going to get similar things to what we got for the picture. So we can do text boxes, we can give it a shadow, reflection, and we can change the colors. With this one, you can't make it do like lighter or darker, but you can give it transparency, which kind of gives you the sort of, it's not exactly the same thing, but that at least makes it look like it's a different color. But you can format the shape in a similar way to the picture, where you can give it a shadow. So if we wanted to give this a shadow, say we give it an orange shadow again, it kind of appears down below like that. And we could give it a glow, make a big glow like that. So see, like that. Okay. Does that answer the question? Or I can show back on the picture how to make it.
It said yes.
Okay, because with the picture, when we go to format picture, we actually have that as a specific thing we can do over here in the picture icon where it says picture corrections. Then we can do the brightness and contrast here on the picture. But with shapes, we don't have that same property, but we have other properties that we can change and do stuff with.
I'll
Okay.
also say that there's so many different options that you can do with everything too. It helps to definitely go in there and play around with what does what to see it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Just because there's so many things there that you can really customize something to the T if you wanted to.
And absolutely don't be afraid to push buttons and try stuff, because you won't know what it does until you go in there and you try it. Remember, you can save a version of your document without these things in it, and then open a new version and just play and get a sense for what these different things can do, how they can enhance your document, how they can be cool. You know, if you're doing a newsletter, you want to add graphics and things, this is the way you can do it.
Yeah, you could just have like a whole document that has like just stuff that you've been playing around with. There's just so many possibilities. It's fun to see what Word can do.
Yeah. So also, when you're playing around, if you don't like something you've just done, remember you have the undo button up here at the very top. So if you don't like the step you just did, you can hit undo, which is the little one that goes to the left up in the very top left-hand corner. And then it'll go back a step or 2 steps or however far. Okay. So if you did something and you're like, oh, I really don't like how that looks, go ahead and go back a step there. You can also fully delete things too. So again, when you have the bounding box around something like this, it's selected. If you hit the delete key on your keyboard, bye-bye, it goes away, right? If I wanted it back, I can hit undo and it'll come back. So when you want to delete pictures or text box or shapes or any of these things, that all works the same way. You just tap on it, got it selected, hit the delete key on your keyboard and it goes away, okay? So that's how you can delete them too. Okay. All right, any questions about shapes and pictures and text boxes before I move on to our last part?
I don't see any questions.
Okay, so our last part is about inserting symbols and special characters. And I wanted to bring this up specifically because this one is actually also on the insert tab. And since we're spending so much time with insert today, and it's all the way over here in the symbols group. And this would be most often used when you're creating a document where you need to use, say, an umlaut or an accent grave or a tilde or any kind of, usually if you're using another, typing in another language, or if you're doing something like patent documents, or you're working in currencies that are not, currency that's not just the US dollar, you might need to put in a special symbol. So to do symbols, you can come up here to symbols, and some of the ones that you've used most recently will already appear right here. And then you can tap on more symbols to get more symbols and also special characters, okay? Excuse me, 1 second. So what we're gonna do, and this is something I learned after, if you attended the class, was that in Word 1 or Word 2 where we covered these symbols briefly? Do you remember, Rebecca?
I think it was Word 1.
Okay, so if you remember back to Word 1, I thought I remembered how to spell the German word for kiss. Well, I was actually wrong. It turns out what I was doing was basically a combination of the German word for kisses, which is Kussa, which has a U with an umlaut. So if I was going to do kisses, it would be K, U with an umlaut, SSE. And I'm going to make this much bigger so everybody can see it. I'm going to go ahead and make my text a lot bigger here to start with. So let's make it, let's see, I'm just going to make it, how about we go to like 48? Can you see that pretty well, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how it's spelled, Kusa, except I need an umlaut over my U, which means I need 2 little dots over the top of it so that it makes the oo sound instead of just the U sound, okay? So I will go to my symbols. So first I'm gonna highlight the letter that I need to change. I'm gonna go to insert, because what it's gonna do is it's just gonna replace that letter. Go to symbol, and then come down here to more symbols in case I didn't see it there, and find it in this list. So if I scroll down here, there's a capital one, but I don't need a capital one, I need a lowercase one because it's not the beginning of my document. So here it is, this is the U with the little umlaut. So I tap on that and I hit insert. And you see how it changed it right there for me and gave me the umlaut? So that's how I can insert symbols. Now, if you notice, there's also keyboard shortcuts. So for this, to get this U umlaut key, as of right now, I could do the control key, the plus key. Well, I could do the control key, and so the plus is just do this key too. So the control key, the semicolon key, and the U key. Okay, so if I do all three of those, so let's try that. If I do control, so here, U, it should possibly. No, that didn't work. Let's see. Control plus semicircle and U. Well, that didn't work for me. Interesting. Well, normally you can design your shortcut key and make it so you can pick. So here's what I did there. If I click on shortcut key, I can determine what I want to use for that shortcut. So I'm not going to change it on this computer because my coworkers might not appreciate that later today, since more than one of us uses this office. But here's where you could change it, make it something new. If you want to make it something easier for you to remember, where it's only 2 keys or whatever you want to do, you could do that there. That's a little bit more advanced, so we won't spend a lot of time on that. You also have special characters. So if you, like I mentioned, if you were working on patent documents and maybe you needed to put a trademark for something like fly away. Let's say that's a trademark for a brand that I have. I'm going to come up to symbol, more symbols, and go to the special characters instead and find the registered trademark or the trademark button here and insert it. And it's going to put it right up above, right there for me. Okay. Or if I need something like an en dash, got those here too, an ellipsis, so you've got all these special characters too, okay? And that's inserting special characters and symbols. When you want to delete special characters, you can actually just highlight it and hit the backspace key to delete it, or you can hit the delete key and delete it that way, okay? Questions about that?
I think we're okay.
Okay, so actually we did get it in pretty much with time. Is there anything anybody would like me to to show again, to demo again? Any questions about sizing or pictures or shapes or text boxes or special characters or headers and footers? We covered a lot today as I list them all off.
We have a raised hand. Let
Sure.
me
Hi.
go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi. Like in iPhone, when I'm typing a text, I can choose if I want to type in some different language. Is it possible with words also?
So with Word, it's if you want to talk in a completely different or like type in a completely different language, you can, but you have to download the package for the language. Usually you can find them online, and you'd have to download it so that you could then type in the other language. Otherwise, for the most part, what people will do is just insert the symbols as you need them. If you go to another country though too, you'll find their keyboards are set up. So for example, in Germany, the keyboards actually have the U umlaut as a specific key on their keyboard. So if you're actually in fact, when I was in Germany, it was very hard for me to type an email to my parents back in the US to let them know I got there okay, because it was all the other keys. And so I kept hitting the other keys when I was trying to do, like the English home row typing.
Okay. So it will be something similar to the iPhone or iPad where you see a different setup of letters.
Yes.
Like
so, yep. Okay. And what you'll see is actually up here, it'll be in the other language as well.
Okay.
All of the icons and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we can research it specifically too and send that in the email afterwards about how to get to that ability.
Oh, that will be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had another question about that similarly, another person asked about how to type in Hebrew letters,
Mm-hmm.
and it was I kind of did a little researching, and it's kind of the same kind of stuff you're saying. You have to get that separate like language keyboard that you can integrate with Word through your computer,
Mm-hmm.
or change your language settings on your computer.
Right. Yeah, but it is
We did have
possible.
yes, it is possible. We did have another question though.
Sure.
It was from someone asking, after deleting the star, the text didn't go back to fill across the page. How would you fix it?
Yeah, so if I'm here with the star and I delete the star, the text should automatically go back where it is. It should happen if we delete the picture too, where it'll just jump back where it was. But if you have to fix it specifically, a lot, say I made this much, much bigger here, and then I delete it, it should go right back to the way it was. Yeah. So you can also play with spacing within the text too, if it doesn't cooperate too much with what you want to do. So let's say I come down here a couple pages, and then I want to put the picture here. I can by itself, so that it's just here in the middle, and center it like that. I can do that too, with a combination of what I'm doing on my computer is on the keyboard is hitting enter enough that it goes down, that the text comes all the way down, and then moving, using the moving ability of the picture to move it within that space. So if you wanted it to be in the middle, you could move it like that. And then if you decided you wanted to move it back over here like this and move the text back up, you can left click down here at the bottom and hit backspace, and it'll backspace it back up like that for you. Okay, does that answer? Hoping that does. So it's a combination of playing with the enter key and moving the images and the text around. Okay. Yeah, so like if I wanted to take this one and move it up here, so like I'm gonna put it to the side of dishes, and then let's say I wanted to call out the quote. So I just hit enter a couple of times to move that down, and then I can select my quote and put it out here in the middle. So it gets called. So it's like it's calling attention to that. Now I could still type other text over here too. If I was going to add other, other text into it, I could still type it in there. So, oops, I think that was from, yeah. So, and then I could also delete. And when I delete the text, so one of the other things you kind of have to watch out for is when you highlight stuff, we talked about highlighting the other day, and when you highlight, it will also potentially, if I start with down here and I start to highlight, if I go up far enough, it will highlight. Do you see how it highlighted the text box as well? So if I went and deleted all of this, it's going to delete the text box too. So you have to be careful about that too. Same with the picture. If I'm up here and I start with this and I highlight there, it's harder to see when the picture has a shadow, but this picture is highlighted now. So, and the little anchor here is basically your anchor for your image. So it's basically telling you where your object anchor is. So it's the selected object is anchored to the document text there. So what that means is when I move this picture, it's still anchored to this text. Okay, so that's the text that's going to move and do what it needs to do with this image. Okay. Other questions?
I don't see any so far.
Okay.
But if anybody else wants to speak their question, feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute your microphone.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and I'll switch back to stop sharing my screen and hopefully stop sharing the screen. And then I can start my video again here. Might take a second for the video to catch up here. Give me just a second here. Hoping. Come on, video. Maybe, maybe not. Can you see it? There we go.
There we go.
Sometimes when I have to do the web where I'm sharing the entire desktop, it doesn't share the video quite as fast. But yeah, And I was going to say too, I have some additional resources to share too. So let me actually share my screen again now that I've just done that. And I'm going to share a couple of, I'm going to share some tabs here. So hopefully you can see GCF Learn Free here. So
Yes, I see it.
So we mentioned this one a lot because it's free online. It's a tutorial. It walks you through things, basically kind of like what we do in our workshops. And here's the one for Word 2016. So it talks about, again, opening documents and creating them, saving and sharing, how to add with text, formatting text, indents and tabs, line spacing. This is all stuff we covered in the first two workshops. And then layouts and printing, headers and footers and page numbers. Then here's you're working with objects. So if you want to learn more about text wrapping and pictures and formatting and shapes and text boxes, it's all right here too. So you're welcome to look in these additional resources too. And then I wanted to point out too, oops, let me close that and see if I might have to sorry, I have to share, I think I have to share the tabs individually if I'm doing it this way. So let me share the next Chrome tab, which is our online tools page. So here is our online tools page. And the reason I want to show this is we have a couple of other resources that you can use. One is called Gale Courses. And Gale Courses, and this is champaign.org/online tools. And you can use Gale Courses. They have some Microsoft classes. They have classes for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I think Publisher, where they're 6-week courses taught by instructors, and you can engage in discussion with your classmates and the professors. And they have little activities that you do. So you might, if you have a Champaign card, you might take advantage of Gale Courses. And then there's also LinkedIn Learning, which also is video tutorials. And they have several video tutorials about using Word and, again, Publisher and Excel and PowerPoint. So you can also use these for supplemental learning too, if you'd like. Okay. And then I'm going to just mention real quick, for those of you that are still here.
We do have another question if I can interject, sorry.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, it says when in a Word document, there is a big section of the top banner with formats, they don't understand it. Normal is the first one. It's some kind of format for the entire document.
Okay, let me share. Oh, okay, I think I know what we're talking about. Let me share my screen again here and jump into Word. So are you talking about these right here that say like ABC, normal, no spacing headings?
They say yes.
Okay, perfect. So these are styles, and it is in the home group, and styles control the formatting of your text where it can do it in a specific way. So if I zoom out a little bit, excellent question, by the way. So if I zoom out a little bit and you can see, you know, what it is right now, it's Calibri 11-point font. And with no space, normal right here is a style. If I do this, which is no spacing, do you see how it changes it from normal where there's a little bit of spacing to shifting everything up to no spacing? Like that. And then heading 1, it changes it. This makes it so that it's more like a like an outline document. So you have a heading, and then you can change the headings. If you hit the little arrow here, you can see a whole bunch of different options of what it can do. So for example, like if I wanted to do an intense quote, that's what this one is called, intense quote. And you can see what it does is it's basically like automatically formatting stuff, where now it gave it, you know, a border above and below, changed it all to italics, and it's still Calibri 11-point, but what it did was it changed the formatting. So it changes the formatting of the text to a specific way. So if I wanted to do that again with this, you know, with this paragraph, I could go like that and hit intense quote again, and it'll do the exact same thing. So it'll make this also intense quote. Okay. So then it formats it all like that. Okay. So it's just, it's like some quick, best way to describe it is like quick editing of your formatting. So changing things to make it look the way you want to make it look. So if I grabbed it all again and I picked maybe like, let's try, what's strong, title, for example, that made all of it, you know, change the font to 28 point. And so maybe you would want your title, like here, the Wonderful, to be that. And then you'd want this to be your direct quote. And you could do like subtle emphasis, subtitle. Subtitle will make it much smaller. So I encourage you to feel free to play around with them. They're designed for people who are, say, you know, it might be more beneficial if you're writing a book or something and you want to do text differently based on what part of the book you're designing or working with. But that's what they do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit like if you've ever worked with PowerPoint and you have themes that you can create in PowerPoint where every slide has, you know, blue along the bottom or every slide has red across the top. That's kind of what these styles do. Okay. Other questions? That's a great question, by the way.
I don't see any other questions. Someone just asked if we ever used them before because they've never touched those style things. And I said, personally, I've never used them, but you know, it really depends on how you use it. Maybe writers use those for formatting their pages, or I'm not sure. I've never really used them, but I don't know.
I can tell you that I don't use them very often. And if I do, it's really only if I want to call attention to a certain part of my document in some way with like the top border and the lower border. But usually I don't, not necessarily, not in a professional setting, at least I haven't. So.
Yeah, I think it's, there's just so many things on Word. You can get so creative.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're tip of the iceberg here.
That's what's fun about playing around with it, because then you can kind of go, oh, you know, I never thought about using that before. Like I know I've done that with Excel a lot, where I've learned something about Excel and I'm like, wow, this really streamlines what I was doing before and making it a lot easier.
Yeah. So, and I think that's true with styles, is basically it's like if it's already set to be a certain way and you're like, man, every time I have a block quote in this paper, it's great if I can just use that style and all I have to do is say block quote and it automatically changes the text to what you want it to be, the font size to what you want it to be, you know, and it italicizes whatever you want it to italicize, all that stuff. And you only have to click one button instead of going to those individual settings and hitting them. And that's kind of what styles does. So it's like pre-formatting.
That's a good question though, because it does take a lot of space up on that little bar there.
It does, and for not being used very often by, you know, a lot of us, it is taking up some real estate. And you know, you can customize to a degree what's up there and what you see in your settings within Word too. That's kind of a more advanced topic, but you can customize it to what you use most often for that real estate up there in the ribbon. So, okay, I'm going to share the upcoming workshops here real quick. So I just wanted to point out our page, which is champaign.org, and you can do /adults/tech-workshops or just champaign.org/tech-workshops. We do have down here, there's a sign up button where you can sign up to get announcements for the upcoming workshops and events. And if you just put your email address in here and you can click sign up, and we send that out monthly, our little e-message. And we do have 2 things coming up in January that I definitely want to mention. Well, actually 3 that I definitely want to mention. The first is that Rebecca will be teaching our first session of getting started with Apple computers, which will be at the end of January, which should be really fun. It's the first time we're offering it. So if you're curious about Apple computers, curious about what some of the differences are, or you have an Apple computer at home or a Mac, this is a class that you might be wanting to attend. We also have a virtual drop-in. It's going to be our first time trying a virtual drop-in. I'll go to the events page here to show you that, where we're going to talk about some of the stuff that the library owns that you can check out. But then it's also a chance for you to come and ask questions. You can ask questions about your devices, the ebooks and audiobooks through the library, our movies, all that kind of stuff. You can get device help. And that's going to be at 7 o'clock on Monday, January 11th. We're going to run it for an hour. We can stay a little longer if we find that there's interest. It's our first time doing it, so we're going to let everybody come and try it out and see how it goes. And then I also want to mention on the 25th of January, the Illinois Attorney General's office is coming, and they are going to present a discussion of internet safety and security for adults. This is especially useful right now with all of the scams and identity theft issues that people are seeing. So they've got some good tips and tricks for how not to let scammers take advantage of you. And she may talk a little bit about some of the recent COVID-19 scams too. So I wanted to mention those. And then, oh, here's the Apple one. The Apple one is at this time. It's the 2 p.m. on Tuesday. And then the others are at 7 o'clock on Monday nights. So we're trying to see if 7 o'clock at Monday night works for people. So, alrighty. And that's all I have. And we can jump back in. All right. Oh, I gotta stop sharing my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, and then see if I can get my video back up. Any other questions? Comments?
I don't see any other questions so far, but you know, we have our emails out there. Feel free to email us if you have any follow-up questions or inquiries. We're more than happy to help you answer those. We do it all the time.
Sorry about my video here. Guess there we go.
There you go.
It's like trying to get it back. Also, if you'd like the handout from today's workshop, we do have the PowerPoint, and we can print that out for you in color. And if you want, you could pick it up curbside here at the library at any time. We're happy to print those out for you. And we also will send out a follow-up email with the link to the video of today's recording, and also some answers to those more advanced questions like changing the language with Word. So, okay. So the handout is essentially the PowerPoint that we do today. So if I jump back in here, I can share.
We did a lot of demoing, but most of the demo
so
cover in
let
the
me
handout as
show
well.
it again. So that's this one. So, and it's basically a step-by-step. So it's step-by-step what we covered today with the visual, but written out. So how to open Word, you know, your document types. If I go a little bit faster here, we'll get into more of the stuff we covered today, like inserting and formatting. So it's got the screenshots and the step-by-step instructions, you know, click this first, tap on this, pick what you want. So it's basically everything we went over today that I did as a live demo, but in screenshots and step-by-step form. So if you're interested in that, please just let us know. You know, we sometimes are tweaking them right up until the time of the class, so we don't always have them ready beforehand. But for those that we do have, I'm happy to share those ahead of time too, for ones that are ready to go. But you can also always ask for them, and we can print them out in full color for you as well. So that's the example of resizing and moving pictures and everything else. Okay. And then we do at the back of the handout as well, as I get up there, I'm gonna go a little faster here real quick. We do have the upcoming workshops. So after we do, so this is deleting, inserting special characters, and then a list of additional resources like GCLF, which I just showed you, and Gale and LinkedIn Learning. And then my contact information, and then the upcoming workshops for January are here. And then our book a librarian information, live chat, and then the email address. So that's all in the handout. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get this back to here and a video again. 1 second here, I'm trying. Something about the webcam trying to catch up to me changing things back and forth. It's not quite as happy. Come on, friend. Let me see if I can get it turned on.
It's like your picture comes in and out. It's trying, you can tell.
Yeah, I can't see it on my end right now. I just see, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Roughly about 30 seconds before it shows up. So,
Okay,
right.
well, I think we are good. Again, any questions, just shoot us an email, or you can always call us too.
Yes, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. And yeah, and we will send a digital copy of the handout with the email that has the link to the video. But if you'd like a printed out copy, we'll provide that for you. So,
okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good rest of your day.